How would we practice staggered block strings without the dummy always answering with the same option? Oh yeah, this is actually not super easy to do, but it makes sense once you figure it out. We can obviously set the opponent to counterattack with a certain setting, right? Like let's say we want to practice beating mashing. So we'd set the opponent to guard all, and we'd come down here to counterattack settings, and we set them to mash with light. So we make them block, and the opponent's gonna mash with light. But we want more options than this, right? We want sometimes they get hit, sometimes they block, sometimes they reflect, sometimes they, you know, whatever, level 3, right? How do we actually get them to do more than one stupid option? And what we have to do is we need to have them counterattack with a recording. And we go to training mode settings and we record a bunch of options and we set it to play back a random recording. If we set them to mash as a recording, set them to reflect as a recording, set them to jump as a recording, level 3, one where we block, then we can set it to random after we turn them all on. And we could even set the one that's blocking to happen the most often, because that's what the opponent hopefully does the most, and that would be most like a real match. And then do something to them. It will initiate the recording. You see at the right side of the screen, it's playing a random recording. I have a bunch of weird ones set that were not 18 recordings, so they don't really do anything meaningful here right now, but you get the idea. Also, it's gonna be really much easier if you set the recording method to quick, because the first thing you do once you tap that recording button, obviously we need to have a record and play button mapped. First thing you do is going to immediately start the recording. So let's have one with mashing. I just hit 5L, mashing. Let's go back up here and set one for jumping. Let's set one for blocking. Let's keep in mind that number 3 was blocking. We want that to happen the most often, so let's have that happen 4 out of 6 times, I guess, because we have 6 things here. And you know, we can also set vanish. Let's do that one too, because that's a good one to practice. Let's have vanish. All right, and now we can practice frame trapping. And ideally, if they go for the vanish, we'll counter vanish them. Like so, and we can kind of practice it this way. Oh wow, I forgot Ginyu doesn't wall bounce. Man, I have not played Ginyu in a while. Hopefully that helps a little bit. How many options would be a good decent amount to practice for offense to rotate in a match? Okay, well that's a good question actually. So you mean like if you want to practice in training mode to be ready for a match, or just like actually practicing in matches? I'm gonna assume it's the former, because I think that's probably the best way to go about it. I think what you can do is pick a mix-up you want to do and work backwards from that. And I think that'd be fine. Okay, I'm just gonna use Nappa as an example because he's on the screen, but this, actually no, we'll use Goku. He's very simple, so this will apply to like most characters you want to play. So let's say I want to do a instant air dash cross-up with Goku, okay? So you'd have to think like, okay, what could the opponent do to deal with this, or how would they generally react to this? So let's say maybe after a jab, we're only like -3, so we still can kind of do a lot of options. We can, obviously, like I mentioned, we want to do this in snare dash, or we could do a dragon rush, or an overhead. But the thing we're worrying about is this air dash. So if the other person were to mash or jump, or something, so if we set them to mash, obviously they'll hit us before we can do something, or if we set them to jump, they'll get away, and then the mix-up doesn't work. So maybe let's set on a counterattack, and we'll have to remember that sometimes we have to frame trap, right? And if we actually frame trap and make them feel bad for taking risks, you know, then next time we're in the situation, we can get away with more stuff. You're gonna have to have some options for the mix-up you want to do. You're gonna have to have some options for, actually more often than not, actually more often than doing the mix-up, you're going to have to pick something that makes them feel dumb or trying to challenge you. So in our case, we have this frame trap. And once in a while, do nothing too. So if, let's say they are constantly like vanishing, I always forget the combination for vanish here, so give me 1 sec. There we go. You can just stop what we're doing. Anti-air. If they were to reflect, stopping what we're doing would also beat that. Actually, fun fact, the left-right mix-up will beat this too. And also, if we did Dragon Rush, obviously we'd beat it this way. Same side mix-up would probably beat this as well. So pick a mix-up you want to do. In our case, it's like, let's just say the 2 things I want to do is instant air dash mix-up and Dragon Rush. Okay, very simple, very easy. And then the rest of the time I need to frame trap sometimes and chill out sometimes. That's a good place to start. And you can add one thing on at a time. When you play in a match and the person you're playing with does something you weren't expecting, or you find out that none of the options that you've built into your habits actually beat, then you can go into training mode, find something that you can add in to your rotation of options, one thing at a time, that will beat each thing that you're having trouble with. You can build up from a starting point. You don't have to have it all figured out at once. It's a process. Hopefully that helped. I don't know if that was a super good explanation, but I wanted to be more general with it instead of just saying like, you know, specifically if you're playing Kid Buu, this is how you're gonna do high-low mix-up or something like that. Can I explain how to tag in a super without DHC? Most people who explain it don't give much detail. Yeah, no problem. It's not super obvious. So if you're trying to cancel into another character's super, right? In fact, I'll leave my inputs on. You guys can kind of see a little bit. What's important is on the left side, my input history, okay? Even though my head's kind of blocking the down input. So anytime you're gonna combo, obviously, like, you can super, and if you hit your assist, you'll switch to the other super. But the question is, how do we just switch into another character's super right away? Anytime the opponent is in hit stun and your main character hasn't recovered from what they're doing yet, you can swap to another character's super if you input a half circle and their assist button. So half circle forward is going to be their level 1. Half circle back is going to be their level 3. So I can do that and swap, but you need to make sure you do it in a way where that level 3 that you're swapping into will actually reach. Sometimes characters have level 1s that don't reach all the time. Like, let's say I'm Nappa, I'm mid-screen, and I'm going to swap into Goku's level 1 mid-screen. So half circle forward, assist, level 1, totally works. But if I want to do this with Kid Buu's, because his goes straight upwards, this isn't going to work, because if I do half circle forward, assist, he tracks to where my character was. He doesn't actually go to where the opponent is. So you have to keep in mind whether it's an option for your characters all the time. Luckily, if you DHC, like let's say I go to Goku first, and then I go to Kid Buu will track to the opponent. So you'll have to kind of remember, in certain situations, you have to do your supers in a certain order, and others you don't have to. One last thing I'll say about that is if you are having trouble getting your, like, if you, let's say you optimize a combo in a way where like now I don't have access to like just a regular sliding knockdown, like doing something like jump H sliding knockdown into a swap into a super is really easy. But if you optimize a combo in maybe a different way, or you play a weird character like Nappa, you might have to find a different way of doing it. And it might be difficult to get this to work. So like, that's too slow. I can't actually swap fast enough off the sliding knockdown I might do with Nappa there. But instead, I could maybe take a move that has a lot of hit stun on it, like this dive, right? And I can swap during the dive, and that'll work really easily. Hopefully that answered your question. Have I seen any of the stuff that Daigo does in Street Fighter V, reacting to options at round start and training? Like, I've been thinking of implementing that into DBFZ. I haven't seen Daigo do that. I haven't watched him in a little while. I know that channel FGC Translated basically is Daigo's stream, but translated. It's Daigo translated the channel, basically. So if anyone wants to watch Daigo, that's probably the best place to do it if you don't speak Japanese. Obviously support him on his stream if you can. There are some ways in most fighting games where you can kind of like fake a round start situation. I think Lord Knight used to do something like this a lot. He would do this in like Guilty Gear 2. In most of these games, you find an option that's like a universal option that takes the same amount of time for every character. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna play back a recording of the opponent doing the exact same thing, and then whatever their round start option was. And when you play back the recording, like I have a button on the side here, like this is my playback button, and this is what I'm going to use for reflect. With the same hand, I'm going to hit both at the same time, and we'll basically both reflect at the same time, and then we can do our option. And this is how we can kind of time what we're doing, right? So if I wanted to see, like, okay, what can I do to beat Android 18's Key Blast round start? I would record, and remember, quick record is going to be a much easier way of doing this, so I don't have to double tap record. We're going to reflect, and then try to time Key Blast after the reflect. And now I can find out when I play this back, when I reflect at the same time, I hit play and reflect, try to 5M, do I actually beat this consistently? I actually don't know if the thing is, I'm a little concerned about whether I got this right. Something like this. Maybe Ginyu's 5M does win, but something like Goku's 2M might be too slow. I guess it's still fast enough. I don't know. Let's pick something I know for sure I don't beat round start. Like, oh shit, people know I have 21 now. Okay. But yeah, I think this is generally the idea. There's probably a better way of doing this, but this is kind of how people have cheated to practice round start in Arc System Works games for quite a while. So if I wanted to see what beats this round start from 21, I would, you know, Super Dash doesn't work. Key Blast doesn't work. We can jump away, but I can't punish. Looks like we can neutral jump. Can we 2H? Yes. And you can kind of practice it that way. Hopefully that at least gives you something to work with for now. It's better than nothing. I know for sure I've seen Lord Knight show off something like this before, and he streams pretty regularly, so you could probably ask him at some point as well. Also, he's just a good resource, so you should ask him questions too.